Jake, what's going on? How are you doing? How's your candidacy going?
Everything's going well with the campaign. Yesterday I just gave a speech, and actually I'm over, like you said, I'm in Pennsylvania, and it's out of my district by a little ways, but there's a city called Lancaster, which is in the middle of Pennsylvania Dutch, Amish, and Mennonite country, and I was invited there to go speak at a rally against surveillance cameras, and yesterday I gave a speech there. It's actually up. The speech text is on my website, but the video is not quite there yet. But I was just amazed. This is, a city in the middle of the U.S. in rural Pennsylvania, and they pretty much have the entire city under camera surveillance. They've got some pretty cool, it's actually kind of neat, private security cameras that, scan for motion and zoom in and the whole 9 yards, and they're out there watching. And actually, these cameras are actually put up in a lot of residential areas and completely residential areas.
Wow!
So it was kind of shocking to go there. I wasn't quite expecting it to be quite as bad. Like I spent the last 4 years in Shanghai, China, so they have a good amount of camera surveillance there. When I was in China, I was a churchgoer, and they have like a little black bubble right underneath all the entrances when you would walk in for the service and everything. So
I want to make sure their citizens themselves are not going to those churches, only foreigners.
Yeah, well, that's true. I used to joke if I ever wanted to know how many Sundays I missed, I could just ask the government because they were keeping track of it better than I was. But they actually, what they did was they separated the foreigners from the locals, and they would have a separate service in the morning for the locals and then one for the foreigners in the afternoon, and in English as well. So it was, anyways, yesterday was a pretty interesting experience. I really didn't, they have these cameras in China, and actually during the rally they were also chanting, we don't want to be like communist China. And then when I had a chance to talk, I was like, well, it isn't quite as bad over there in a lot of spots. And I was in Shanghai, which is a major city. I mean, it's not like London where they have everything mapped out, but it was pretty bad. And a lot of folks don't really realize what I was basically giving the talk on was the Fourth Amendment in the United States, and what people need to realize is that the government has no right, private company has no right to search your person or where you're going without a warrant, and a warrant needs to state in it probable cause. So it's clearly unconstitutional. If you read the wording of the Fourth Amendment, it's just shall not be violated. It's been kind of changed over the years by the Supreme Court interpreting in different ways, but in reality, the Fourth Amendment stands. So
the language of it is pretty simple and pretty clear, no matter what precedents they would like to try to reside on.
Right.
And the language is clear enough.
Right, and it's an interesting situation there because not only the cameras are up, but they're actually run by a private company, which is run, I believe, by a former city politician. And they started the program after 9/11 in 2001, and what they did for that was they actually got some cameras for free from a company named Bosch that makes security cameras. And what ended up happening was, as time has gone on and on, they've got some grants and everything, and now the taxpayer is actually, paying for this security, which is, pretty much watching them. And
it's no security.
Yeah, it's and that's what
security.
I was even pointing that out. Like, even if the public officials there are saints, and there's nothing to protect against, the system being misused by, either the people that are actually running this private company or by, the next mayor or the next city council that get elected. There's nothing to prevent them from using it for their own personal gain or for political use. And it's pretty sad to see, people having such a skewed view of liberty that, they'd rather track where people are going and what stores they go into rather than, focus on just better enforcement and neighborhood watches and that type of thing, which would probably, they're a lot more work. You have to, or better trained officers or more officers, but, at the end of the day, that's what's going to improve your public safety, not something like this. I mean, something like the camera system. If you really want to get somebody, or if you really want to rob somebody, you'll find a way to get it done. It'll just displace the crime. So.
Yeah, and that's what it's done in London. I mean, they're doing more studies on that, and they're finding that they hardly catch crime at all with their cameras out there. It's just been more of a deterrent, and the crime has just moved to areas where the cameras aren't. And
absolutely.
I mean, that's typical, and that could be expected. You could have probably easily predicted that ahead of time. But this little town, how big of a town is this that you're talking about?
Oh, there's about 50,000 people living there, and it's
Wow.
pretty rural. I would say
did they have a lot of crime?
Well, actually, I'm not going to comment on that because I don't know the answer. But it is a fairly quiet town when we were walking through it. I mean, they have the old farmers market and that type of stuff there. It does appear that there are some shootings and that type of stuff, but what they were saying to me yesterday, some of the locals were saying, they just had a shooting the other day. It was in front of the cameras. And, I guess it kind of helps you out with a little bit of evidence, but, if you know that there's a camera, you hopefully you're smart enough to, be masked and that type of thing. So it just kind of tracks what's going on. But at any rate, if people want to learn more, it's on the article's on the front page of my website, which is towneforcongress.com, spelled Towne, or they could go to republicmedia.tv. The organizers there was Sam Ataro, who's I guess the president of republicmedia.tv. He's also from Pennsylvania, and the local woman who organized the folks there, her name was Renee Baumgartner, and she's at I believe it's www.stopthecameras.com. So hopefully this camera experiment ends in Pennsylvania and doesn't go anywhere in the U.S. But
unfortunately, I don't think that's going to happen. As all these towns seem to be, especially the big cities, seem to be adding cameras. I'm here in Houston. They are constantly adding cameras here. They've mainly stoplight cameras, but there's talk of different types of camera systems. I know in Phoenix they even have cameras on the freeways that just mail you speeding tickets. I know that these are popping up in big cities all across America. And I heard talk of more of them being placed in downtown areas to police crime, and unfortunately I think that this is a trend that isn't going anywhere anytime soon, and I don't think enough people really.
Yeah, our government
does.
our government has kind of started the trend towards this totalitarian police state type stuff, because what I made a point is all these totalitarian regimes all over the world, they might have taken power by force, but at the end of the day we would have the same. Actually, we'd have probably a better spy system in place than in China under Mao Zedong, or in East Germany in the communist years with the Stasi secret police, or in Stalin's USSR and those types of things. But it's kind of interesting because one of the things in my campaign, I'm actually running as an independent, and historically those haven't done very well. But I think, and I've had a lot of conversations with people about this, but I think a lot of folks, they're actually looking in the past, or looking at the last 20 years, the last 40 years, and they're not really looking ahead at the next 2 to 4 years. And what we see going on is, you had a lot of interest at these town halls, and a lot of the thing was for, this healthcare debate, but a lot of that was actually, there was people going there and they were concerned about healthcare primarily, which is true, but there was a lot of just overall frustration with the power of the federal government and how they've been trying to basically run our lives.